Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Hart, Community Engagement Specialist with Austin Development Services. Thank you so much for joining us. As folks join in, I'll talk a bit about the series that we're presenting today. Again, we're just going to wait a few minutes as people trickle in. This series is designed with our community in mind. It's all about connecting you with helpful information, practical tips, and insights about the services we provide here at Austin Development Services. In the past, we've covered topics like building under home, spring cleaning, and home maintenance tips, as well as the basics of landscape design, navigating Austin's development data, and the latest AC requirements, homestead permits, and zoning. So we have a variety of topics that we cover all the time, and we do this class once a month. Each session is about helping homeowners and community members feel more informed and empowered. We want you to understand how to go about this process, right? So we do this by bringing you our subject matter experts, and we have them here today, the people who know and work on these services every day, to share their knowledge and answer questions on what you need to know. Our goal is simple. Make sure you have clear, useful information that helps you navigate the process, take care of your property, and make the most of the resources available to you. I mean, we're all here, so we want to make sure that you're utilizing us to the best of your ability. So we want to give you that knowledge and power to do so, and the helpful links and resources so you can do that easily. Our topic for today is expert mode, expertise you may need before you build. With us today, and we'll go back and wait as people trickle in. With us today are Joydeep Goswami, he's the Division Manager of Land Use Review, and Alan Wu, Supervising Engineer and Deputy Building Official. Again, we'll just wait as people trickle in. And thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We know that you have a busy schedule and other choices of use for your time. So we really appreciate you coming and listening to the information that we have to provide today. Before we officially begin, I want to quickly review the engagement format for today's meeting. We're going to start with a presentation and close with a Q&A session. Questions can be posted to the Q&A bank by selecting that option at the bottom of your screen. So all you have to do is go ahead and choose that Q&A option and enter your questions there. If you are having issues with either of those functions, please feel free to chat one of the meeting hosts. We discourage you putting the questions in the chat because it's better and you'll get quicker answers if you can put them into the Q&A, and that helps us document those questions. So that's really helpful for us. Another option is also will help troubleshoot any issues you might be experiencing. So put that in the chat too. If you're not able to maybe hear us or something like that, we will try to mitigate those problems for you. While we hope to able to answer all of your questions, for those that we do not have the information for, we will post a follow-up response, and you'll be able to find that in an email that we'll send to all participants. I'd also like to note that the meeting will be recorded. You will all receive a link to the presentation and the recording later this week. So the recording will also, once it's complete, we'll be posting that to the public meeting page. But we'll also be sending you an email that will contain that recording and a PDF as well. And now I will turn it over to Alan for our presentation. There you go, Alan.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Like Kimberly said, I'm Alan Wu. I'm the supervising engineer and deputy building official with the City of Austin Development Services. This slide is just a quick informational slide. Austin Development Services is our local governing agency that ensures the safety of Austin's build environment through review, permitting, inspections, and code compliance processes so that all structures and land uses are in compliance with local, state, and national regulations. Development Services delivers the promise to Austinites and visitors through a methodical system of processes and procedures in accordance with established standards found in the Texas Land Development Code, the Muni Code, and the International Code Council. Together, we are building a better and safer Austin. So for today, we're going to look at building construction in a way that you've never thought of before. In seeing a building as a collection of, instead of looking at it as a collection of materials and tools and trades, we're going to look at it in a more familiar setting, the human body. Why are we doing this? Well, it's because just like a body, it's a complex system of specialized parts that all depend on one another. When one system fails, the other feels its impact. And when everything works together, the whole structure thrives. Now, this analogy helps us understand not just what each trade does, but why it matters. It also helps us appreciate the coordination required to bring a building to life. So as we walk through each part of the construction process, imagine the building as a person, all with its bones, muscles, its skin, and even a brain. By the end, you'll see construction not just as an assembly, but as an anatomy. So, you've all heard this saying, the foundation, it's your bedrock, the most important thing in the structure. So we'll start there. And this kind of tugs at my heartstring, being a structural engineer. So every building begins with a foundation. In our analogy, this is what you would think about as a skeleton. Just like your bones support your entire body, the foundation supports the entire structure of it. If the skeleton is weak or misaligned, the whole body suffers. And the same is true for a building. The foundation transfers loads to the earth and keeps the structure stable and prevents movement. Soil conditions acts kind of like posture. With good posture means long-term health. Bad posture can lead to chronic problems. And when we think about foundation, the trades that we think about are your concrete workers, your foundation crews, and your geotechnical engineers. Essentially, they're your orthopedic surgeons of construction. Now we move on to the structural framing, which we can consider these like your muscular and skeletal systems. We think about the beams, the columns, and studs. They all act like bones, while the connections and the bracing behave like your muscles and tendons. They give the building its shape, strength, and the ability to resist outside forces like wind, seismic activity, and gravity. If the framing is off by even just a little bit, and the entire structure will feel it, just like a misaligned joint affects the whole body. And trades that you might consider with structural framing are your iron workers and your carpenters and your structural engineers. Next is the skin of the building, right? Essentially, the exterior walls and the roof is what you kind of think about. Just like skin protects us from the elements, the building envelope, which is the outside, the skin, shields the interior from rain, heat, and even UV exposure. Insulation acts like body fat. It regulates the temperature in the building and even energy loss. Waterproofing is an immune barrier that keeps moisture out. If the skin is compromised, the building becomes vulnerable to mold and rot and even energy loss. Trades you might think about for this. You think about your roofers, your siding installers, waterproofing and insulation specialists. They're essentially your dermatologists of construction, keeping the building healthy and protected. So windows and doors are basically the building's sensory openings. Think of window functions like the eyes. They bring in natural light and allow the building to see outside. Doors, they are like the mouth. They allow people, materials to enter and exit. And then you think about your vents and louvers. They're the nostrils, letting the building breathe. And we typically think of for this as far as the trades are concerned, your glazers, door installers, finish carpenters. They all contribute to the building sensory function. The electrical system is the building's nervous system. Wiring runs through the walls like nerves in our body, carrying signals and power to every room. The electrical panel is what you would think of as the brainstem, distributing energy where it needs. Outlets, switches, and fixtures are all sensory points that respond to user input. And when the electrical system fails, it's like the body loses its nerve function. It stops working and safety becomes a concern. And we think of electricians automatically. And what we can do is think of them as your neurologist of construction, ensuring the building signals flows are flowing smoothly. Plumbing is what we would consider the circulatory system. We have fresh water flows in through supply lines, like oxygen-rich blood, and then wastewater flows out through the drains, like oxygenated blood returning to be filtered. Pumps act like the heart, keeping everything moving. And if plumbing fails, the building becomes unhealthy very quickly. Plumbers keep the circulatory system functioning, ensuring we get the clean water we need and to keep all the waste out. And again, plumbers, what we think about, and you could say they're the cardiologist of building construction. The HVA system is the building's respiratory system. Ductwork distributes air the same way lungs distribute oxygen. Filters trap dust and contaminants. Heating and cooling regulate the building's internal temperature, just like the body maintains homeostasis. And we think about your HVAC technicians and your mechanical contractors. Think of them as your respiratory therapists of construction, keeping the air clean and the environment comfortable. Fire protection systems are what you would think of as the building's immune system. Think sprinklers, alarms, and detectors. They all act like white blood cells, constantly monitoring for threats and responding instantly to dangers when they appear. Fire-rated walls and materials, they all act as protective barriers, slowing the spread of damage. A strong fire protection system can mean the difference between a minor incident and a catastrophic failure. Trades that we think about are your fire protection installers and inspectors. They're what you would call your building's immune specialists. Interior finishes are the building's appearance and personality. We think drywall, paint, flooring, trim. They don't keep the building alive, but they definitely define how it feels and how people experience it. Just like clothes and hair and style expresses a person's identity, finishes expresses the building's character. Trades we think about. Your painters, drywallers again, floor installers, your finish carpenters, interior designers. Think of them as your stylists and your makeup artists of construction, giving the building its final look. Modern buildings, they have a brain now, and we call them the control systems. We think sensors, automations, and smart technology. They all allow the building to think, respond, and adapt itself. These systems can regulate your lighting, temperature, security systems, and even energy usage. They make the building aware of its environment and it's capable of adjusting itself without human intervention. And trades we think about for this, we have control technicians, low voltage specialists, and IT personnel. Think of them as your neuroscientists of construction. They program the building's intelligence. And we get to site work. Finally, that's kind of it forms the building's environment. We think of grading, drainage, they all shape the terrain, just like the environment shapes how a body lives and functions. Proper site work prevents flooding, erosion, and structural stress. I think landscaping improves, how we breathe, air quality, aesthetics, how we feel, and comfort. It's much like how, healthy environment supports a healthy body. And here we think of your excavators, your landscapers, and your civil engineers. So why is plan review important? And this is the division that I oversee. So relating all this back to the human body, we can think of it in a few ways. Plan review can be thought of as a health checkup, just like how a doctor reviews your scans, your test results, medical history. Plan review does the same examination for a building before work starts. You could think of construction documents that we review as a building's DNA, all the information that we need to build this structure. And finally, we want to identify these problems while they're still on paper, frankly, before it gets built, and so we can ensure that all the systems are working together. So as I wrap up, think about how every part of the building mirrors a part of the human body. This perspective kind of reminds us that construction isn't about just slapping some materials together. It's about creating a real cohesive and functioning organism. Every trade plays a vital role. Every system supports each other. This analogy kind of helps us appreciate the craftsmanship, the teamwork, and the precision required to bring a structure to life. So thank you for taking this journey through the anatomy of construction. And I hope it gives you a deeper understanding of the trades and a new way to communicate their importance and a fresh appreciation for the incredible complexity behind every building that we create. So now I'm going to hand it off to Joydeep. He's going to be going over the many professional roles in the site and subdivision process.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, I'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. As previously stated, my name is Joydeep Goswami. I am the Acting Assistant Director for Land Development Review and also the Division Manager for for Land Use Review. Our team reviews site plans, subdivision applications. I'll do my best to follow Alan's presentation. That was a wonderful presentation. Mine's not going to be as detailed, but I'm certainly here to answer questions after the presentation. So just to get started, so I will go through the professional licensures and certifications needed to submit a site plan and subdivision application through the city of Austin. And in general, what the site and subdivision is, prior to the building permits and building review that Alan went over, when you have a raw piece of land, the order of process is you would have to subdivide that piece of property in order for it to be a legal lot. And then as you develop the site prior to going vertical with the building construction, you need to develop the site for drainage, water quality, environmental, all those regulations in our land development code. And with that, you would require certifications and professionals in order to in order to submit those applications. So I'll walk you through the site and subdivision applications and the professionals that you would need to submit those applications. So we'll start with site plan. For site plan, you would need a professional engineer that's registered in the state of Texas, and we'll get into the specifics of what those what the PE would be doing in this process. You would need a registered professional land surveyor, and in most cases, you would also need a landscape architect. Okay, so for the professional engineer, the engineer would be signing and sealing plans for anything that requires engineering calculations, and so that it's more specifically would be grading, drainage, utilities, streets, environmental controls such as erosion and sedimentation controls. And for that, yes, the plan sets would need to be signed and sealed by a professional engineer. So in general, the key deliverables is the construction plans, the engineering plans, and also the engineer's reports that usually contain the summaries, or it includes an engineering summary letter that includes the overall design of the site, kind of gets in the report of the specifics, provides drainage models when needed, all those kind of things. So that would require a professional engineer's signature and seal. Also, on a site plan, you would also need a registered professional landscape surveyor. That is for any surveys that's being used in the site plan. So a boundary survey, a topographic survey, tree surveys for all trees greater than 8 inches in diameter would require a surveyor's seal. Why it matters, of course, engineers rely on surveyors. It's a very a relationship that both need each other in order to do what they need for a site plan application. It certainly helps engineers design correctly. It also protects the natural features and ensures legal compliance with all survey requirements. A landscape architect is required if your site is greater than 1 acre. There are landscape requirements in our code and criteria that a landscape architect would be familiar with, but for landscaping sheets that are in the plan set, you would need a landscape architect if the site is greater than 1 acre. If the site is between a ½ acre and 1 acre, you can also, those sheets can be signed by an architect, a PE, or a full-time building designer. And then the key work that they provide is preservation of trees, meeting our landscape code requirements for tree preservation. There are specific landscape design requirements in our zoning code, and also they provide all the buffering requirements that are also in our land development code. Then for a subdivision, so this is the part prior to site plans when you need to establish a legal lot. If there's a subdivision, which would be a preliminary plan, a final plat, or a re-subdivision application, you would need to have a registered professional land surveyor that would provide the same boundary and topographic surveys, also provide survey exhibits that are included in the application. You'd also need a professional engineer for any engineering reports, cost estimates, and engineer summary letters. So that's a summary of the professionals that would be required for a site plan and subdivision application through the city of Austin. With that, I think I will turn it back to Kimberly.
Hi. All right, we're going to start the Q&A section. I don't see any, thank you, Joydeep and Alan, for the presentation and all that helpful information. It was really nice. We learned a lot today. I don't know if you did, but I did. I love how it was presented. We are now open for questions. So there aren't any questions currently in the Q&A box. If you have a question, feel free to put it in now and we can read it and have it answered. If you're not able to submit a question in the Q&A box, feel free to raise your hand in the chat and I will call on you and unmute you, and you can then ask your question if you'd like. So we'll pause and let you think if you have any questions, because sometimes you have to kind of let the information settle right before it occurs to you. So feel free to think about what you might want to ask. So if there's any questions, like I mentioned, go ahead and type it in the Q&A, raise your hand, and I'll give it just a few minutes. And if people are satisfied, I'll just give it a few minutes. We'll see. And I am not seeing any questions. Aha, here we go. So here's a question from Monica. Before you build, you would need to know if the property is suitable for the development. What are the steps for that information? And we can answer this live or type.
Sure, I can start,
Okay.
at least from the site plan perspective. So it sounds like the question is regarding, you know, the due diligence required prior to submitting an application. What are some steps that the city can help with that? So we do have a land use assistance team that's here at the City of Austin at our Permitting and Development Center, that they are available across our reviews to answer questions about particular sites. So you can either set up a development assessment meeting with the team. They meet on Thursdays and they can kind of walk you through it all together. Or if you have individual questions specific to environmental or drainage or water quality or site plan, we have members of each of those teams available in our land use assistance division to answer those questions. So we can provide links, I think, if needed, or however we do it, but there are time trade appointments you can set up, or you can come into the building itself and ask for one of those reviewers to kind of walk you through it.
Okay, thank you, Joydeep. I appreciate that. We have another question from Mary Anderson. Mary Anderson asks, may I have a copy of the requirements? Can you expand on that, Mary? Which requirements are you requesting? We'll give her a moment. There we go. Are there any other requirements that we have not gone over? Let's take that live.
Again, I'll start, and then maybe Alan, if you want to add a little bit more to it. You know, our requirements for our site plans and subdivision applications, there's a lot of sources for that. Our actual code and criteria is available through our Municode website, that has the actual list of our land development code and all the chapters and subchapters. It's pretty cumbersome to go through all of that. So, you know, more specifically, you can, again, you know, for land use assistance, they can answer some specific questions about requirements. It would be difficult to provide an exhaustive list of all requirements, to be honest with you. I think what would be better is if you have any specific questions about any of the requirements, whether it's building related or site plan related, we could provide certainly points of contact to answer those questions. Also, our applications are available on our website, that they do tend to have the information that's needed to submit those applications. So that's also a form of the requirements in some ways. So we have multiple sources. So just let us know what questions you have or which requirements in particular you're needing, and we can certainly get that information to you.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on that one with the building, on the building side, we do have two groups. We have a commercial plan review group and also residential review group. So depending on what your project is, there are, I guess, requirements that we do publish on our website. So we can get those links to you all, and they'll give you enough information as far as what's required, as far as submittals are concerned, which applications to fill out. And yeah, so they should be published on the website, and we should be able to get you those links.
Great. And we have another question from Mary. When do you need an engineer or a topographic engineer? My apologies.
Sure. Yeah, I can help with that. So you would need an engineer on any of the plans that have engineering calculations. So, you know, our typical site plan applications, do require an engineer because you're going to provide drainage calculations, water quality calculations. And so in those scenarios, you would need an engineer. For the topographic surveys, you would need a surveyor to certify the survey information that's being provided on the plan set. So, what I would say is that, if you have a site plan application that you're submitting that has survey information on it, which you would probably absolutely need, then you would need a surveyor to provide that information. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. It's not as specific maybe, but you will need an engineer or a topographic survey anytime you have those components in your application.
Great. Okay, and Mary asks, yes, codes and criteria. On the site, it's not easy to understand or read. Do you have suggestions for Mary?
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion would kind of be what I was saying earlier again, is that if you have any specific questions about the code and the criteria that is difficult to understand, and I completely get it. It's, I've been doing this for a long time and it's still difficult for me to understand. So I would just tell you that if you have any specific questions or even general questions about an area in the code, for example, the drainage code, right? Or the water quality code or the environmental code, please let us know which group that you have those, or which general topic you are having a little difficulty understanding the code, and we can provide the point of contact that can meet with you and answer those questions. It'll just be, again, just to reiterate, it would be difficult to provide an exhaustive compilation of all of that, other than to provide you the links to the website that includes our code and criteria. But I think the best, my suggestion would be, when it comes time to submit an application, or as you're reviewing the code and criteria, if you have any specific questions, just let us know and just reach out to us, and we'll be able to connect you with the right person.
Thank you, Joydeep. Monica Irvin asks, before you build, you would need to know if the property is suitable for the development. What are the steps for that information? Sorry.
I guess I'll try to answer that one. So before you build, you need to know if the property is suitable. Again, I would just say we have a group that you can meet with that kind of can walk you through general site plan information. We also have a website, our property profile, that can give you some general information, and I can provide that link. Kimberly, would it be best to put the links in the chat right here, or should I?
Yes, and
okay.
Also, if you could also put them in the answered portion, or the answered portion, the type answer, then we can follow up with a Q&A summary and give that to attendees, so they'll have those links there as well.
Okay. Yes. Let me see if I can figure out how to add links. I went to done. Okay, let me figure this out. I'm sorry. I have the links here for example, our Austin Unicode, but just going to need to figure out how to be able how to send that to you. Maybe in the chat, would that work?
That's fine.
Okay.
And I can gather them from there, and then and follow up with the Q&A, and that'll make it more streamlined. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I can do that right now. Okay, that's the one that I just put in there. That is the City of Austin Unicode. If you go to that, that's the library of our code and criteria. That's across the board. So that'll include, everything from our administrative rules for solid waste services, all the way through our criteria manuals and codes of ordinances. And so, yeah, again, I'll be the first one to tell you that it is quite a cumbersome amount of information. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us, and we can answer anything that we can more specifically for a site. What I'll also provide in the link is our property profile website.
That's excellent. And would that also include, would you be also putting the land code link as well, or is that included in the Muni code?
I think we probably lost Joydeep.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think the land development code is going to be part of the mini code. So
Okay,
that'll
great.
be
So
linked together.
Mark, there we go. Thank you, Monica. That was a great question. Okay, we got that. And Mary has provided, so Mary, for the link, yeah, I will make sure to include all these links in a follow-up email as part of, like, normally if there are questions and answers that we can't provide during this session, we always follow up with a Q&A summary. But since we're not having those and we have this request for links, I will create a document that has these links that have been mentioned that are requested and send that to the participants. Okay, does that help, Mary? Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. And you will get that once this recording is posted to the website, I will follow up and send the Q&A, which is going to be a summary with all the links that you've all requested and the PDF of the PowerPoint. So you'll get that, and it'll give you a link to where you can find the recording, which will be on the public meeting page. And I'll provide you with a link for that as well. Are there any more questions at this time? Okay, I will say next slide.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm sorry about that, by the way. I think I dropped off for a second.
No worries.
All right, I'm back. And I did add the
Okay.
link to the property profile website in the chat. So
Okay.
that's the, yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay.
Okay, as we wrap up, we appreciate you joining today's session. Again, I know you have a choice of what to do with your time in the afternoon, so we really appreciate you coming and joining us and learning about the information, part of what we do here at Austin Development Services. If you wouldn't mind, to help us improve, please scan the QR code on the screen to complete the brief survey. Your feedback helps us build better educational resources. You can also explore future webinars and register for our upcoming sessions by visiting public input / info series. We look forward to continuing the conversation. Again, we have upcoming presentations. Like in June, we have one on short-term rentals. In May, it's all about code, and because May's a safety month for construction buildings, so we'll get that information to you in May. So once again, go ahead and scan that QR code if you can. And we would love to hear your suggestions for making this even better. Next slide, please. I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay. There. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close the session for today. And thank you once again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.